everybody. It's your girl, Miss Trina, with Chat with Trina, and I'm here with you today with some special guests. I'll tell you, I'm probably so sick of me talking about pancreatic cancer and telling y'all we're purple. Well, you got some more. You got a whole another week of the month, so just bear with me. And you can still wear your purple. Look at the people on the screen; they're in their purple, so you can still wear your purple. So today's chat is near and dear to my heart because I want us to have information and it's going to help us in the future to have the information that we need. So I have two amazing people. We have Mr. Craig and Miss Angelique.
That's correct.
Angelique on, and they're going to give us some conversation. I'm not going to ask questions. Unless something is, I don't know something, I'll ask. But we're going to have a conversation. They're going to give us some good information. And then towards the I'm so sorry. My great nephews just came in the house. They're like 1 and 3. I was like, what is that? Great information. But then at the end, I do want us to talk a little bit about, make sure we talk about what PanCAN is and the date. Are there different dates for the walk in different cities?
No, so PanCAN actually very recently, over the last few years, converted to a one-date event. So there's 60 PanCAN or Purple Stride walks throughout the nation, all happening on one day. It's usually the last day in April. And so that's been great for PanCAN. It's brought much more awareness and much more talk by having us all, and just in a good sense of unity and community, right?
Yes.
We're doing this all together from all across the nation. So last Saturday of April here.
Okay. Well, we're going to jump right in, guys. How are you?
Doing great.
We're doing great. It's almost Thanksgiving, and I'm feeling very thankful. So just absolutely amazing.
Yes, thank God. I look a mess, y'all. My daughter is a real estate agent, so I was out with her all day with one of her clients that she's been taking out a lot. And I think we have a seller. I think we got a house.
Nice.
So it was worth me being tired.
That's right.
So let's talk about let's just jump right in. Let's talk about what is this horrible, aggressive disease.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and kick us off. So pancreatic cancer is actually the third leading cause of cancer-related deaths in the United States. It's considered one of the toughest cancers to have. There's a 5-year survival rate of just 13%. And we've really only come into the double digits of survival in just the last few years. For many, many years, we were in single digits and just not moving. The survival rate was stagnant. And so as we've worked more in growing the awareness around research, we slowly started to see the survival rate climb. But clearly 13% is not enough. And so that's where we come in and, again, trying to spread our awareness as much as we can. Stuff like this, where you are giving us a platform to talk about the disease, any information and resources that we have that we can share. This is exactly what we need to change those statistics. There's too many people are being affected with no progress to research for the disease. And so that's what we want to do. A squeaky wheel gets the grease, is what we always say. So the more that we can talk about it, the more things can happen.
Okay. Craig, you want to add something?
Yeah. And it's and every time I hear someone say 13%, although the number sounds really small, my heart feels nothing but joy, because keep in mind, when my sister was diagnosed, it was 2013. And when I Googled pancreatic cancer, the survival rate was 4%. So it hit me and my family like a ton of bricks, because in my heart, I thought to myself, my sister doesn't stand a chance with a 4% survival rate. So I tell everybody, although that number sounds small, it is a huge impact, a lot more work to do, but to go from 4 to double digits, progress is being made. So I always say, hey, whenever you think your advocacy is not working, you look at those baby steps that we're making. And so it gets closer and closer, to having better outcomes. So every time I hear that double-digit number, I celebrate, because my sister read that it was only 4.
Wow. That is, and Angela, I didn't know what was your dad? 2014, he passed.
Yeah, so my dad was diagnosed in January of 2014, and he passed in September as well in that year, 2014. So it was a short 9 months. He did the Whipple procedure, which is most standard procedure for adenocarcinoma, pancreatic cancer. There's two different types.
Oh.
So it's a grueling surgery. It's a 7-8 hour surgery with a really difficult recovery, and then they start chemo after that. Usually it can start ahead of time. In this case, my dad started after, and he had one round, and it took him down. My dad was he was the visual image of strength in our family, because we're a Latina family, and so he was a tall, 6 foot, big man.
Oh, wow.
Proud veteran of the U.S. Army, served in the Vietnam War. I mean, he had seen some things. And so to see him diagnosed with this disease in January, and to see what it had done to him those 9 months that's
the scariest part, or the saddest part, to see that.
It is. And it was harder. It's like you were saying, Craig, earlier, or it might have been you, Trina, as well. You're so knee deep in the disease, and what do we have to do, and it just understanding it all together, that there's not a lot of time to figure out, who do I go to, where do I go?
Exactly. Yeah.
That was my case, and my family's. So after he had passed, it was only up until then that I thought, somebody's got to be doing something. And so PanCAN was it. And so the very first thing that I did actually with PanCAN, which was not but a month or so later, was walk Purple Stride. And
it's funny, I don't mean to cut you off, but so my dad died September 2024, and I went to the one in April 25. So many people that I met and talked to, because believe it or not, I'm a talker, but so I was talking to everybody, and so many people that were there had lost their dad like a month before or 2 months before. And I'm saying dad because it's funny that most of the people I met, it was their dad. And it's funny, you mentioned about how fast, you said 9 months. We found out in July. My daughter had passed the bar for her law license, and we had an event, and they were saying my daddy couldn't come, which I was disappointed, but he went to the hospital that day. And he had been sick a while, but he kept going to another hospital. They kept sending him back. But sometimes when your stomach's hurting and you're dehydrated, with all those things that we didn't know, they kept sending him. So finally he went to the VA. And what my point to that was, he walked into the hospital. By the time he left out, that was when that big storm was here that year, and all the lights and electricity was out here in Houston. They wouldn't let him come home because of that. But he walked in. When he left out, he had to go by ambulance. And I was there by myself at the room with him that day, and I was asking the nurse, I was like, well, why is he getting an ambulance to go home? Because I don't know if I was in denial or just didn't get it, but she was like, she stopped and said, do you understand? And I was like, no. I'm thinking that, because I'm even telling her, why don't we get a second opinion? Why? I don't understand, why can't we take him to MD Anderson? Because and that's when they said he's too weak. That surgery would take him out. And of course, I'm still like, I don't understand. So I'm mad, of course, because I'm like, I don't understand why we're not doing everything that we can. But they literally had to take him in an ambulance to go home when he walked in the building by himself. It was just that fast. So that's the scary part about this disease to me.
Very fast and aggressive. And it's so interesting. My sister passed this. It was in 2013. She only survived it 4.5 months. But the interesting thing about my story is that about a year or so before then, there was this show that came on, which I'm never captivated by everything that comes on television. But for some reason, Randy Pausch gave a speech called The Last Lecture, and he was talking about his diagnosis with pancreatic cancer. And for some strange reason, I was drawn to his conversation so much that I started following his life. My sister had not been diagnosed, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out, why am I so invested into Randy Pausch's story about Last Lecture in this disease? So immediately when my niece is a doctor, when she called and said, because my sister had been going back and forth with doctor, stomach pain, didn't think anything major, had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is something that's commonly diagnosed for pancreatic cancer. But when we found out what it was, and my niece called me, not thinking it was pancreatic cancer, when she said those words, it was searing. Because I had just been following this guy, and I knew this was a very, very aggressive disease, and instantly I didn't know what to do. So I literally Googled. My sister has pancreatic.
I'm sorry, guys. Is there a background somewhere? I hear something. Okay, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm echoing. I'm so sorry, Craig. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And so I immediately Googled, my sister has pancreatic cancer, what do I do? And I found PanCAN. But the interesting thing about finding pancreatic, my sister was going to go to her first purple scribe in DC. I lived in DC at the time. And we ended up burying her on the day that they had purple stride. American Airlines involved. I worked for American Airlines, and they had the team. It was going to be her first walk, and of course she didn't make it. But it was such a learning lesson for me. It was the beginning of my advocacy, because culturally we don't talk about cancer, and when someone is diagnosed and sick in the family, we just don't talk about that. Matter of fact, we try to keep my sister's illness a secret.
Yeah.
And I made that decision at moment because she was looking at the purple stride pictures on the internet, and she said, "Hey, Craig, if I don't make it, please participate, because there are a lot of people out there that are still fighting." And I was like, "I don't want to hear that. You're gonna make it."
Right.
And she said, "Hey, promise me that you're gonna just keep doing this." And I promised her. So when she didn't make it, the one thing that I was sure about my life, that as long as I had breath in my body and could move, I would be an advocate for this. And I would make sure that I got the word, especially within our community, because cancer is such a taboo topic. And your story can be the reason why a person goes out and get diagnosed or early detection and possibly find a disease. But silence can truly be deadly. So that was the beginning of my advocacy. It was a commitment to my sister. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure that my silence about her death wouldn't be the cause of someone else not getting diagnosed or going to the doctor, checking out or knowing the symptoms, or hearing my story and my sister's story and said, I had those symptoms, or my father or my sister had those symptoms. So it's very important that we do what we're doing now.
And when you mentioned that people don't want to talk about cancer, we kind of, because it's scary. Like if you say it, it's going to be more real, right? That's if we say something. But it makes me think about male breast cancer warrior survivors, because I've tried for years to get a man to come on and talk about it, because we know what the symptoms for women, and that's why it's so people were finding cures, we're getting it done. I can't get the men to come on. And I try to talk to some of them and they say they're not ready. But I'm like, I try to not push too hard, but I have to say, we can't help others if you don't speak out, so we can know what to look for in men, right? Maybe some of the same, but it may not be. And it's that. So when you said that, the silence of it is a killer itself when it comes to cancer.
And then I think for us in my family and in my community, in the Latin community, a lot of it is, well, I'm just going to leave it up to God. And absolutely, 100%, God has the plan, no doubt. However, there are things that we can be doing. And in my heart and in my mind, God did not put us here to suffer. And so if we are here to, if it's taking an aspirin because you've got a headache, that's an action that you're taking, and so in the cases of cancer, people are very quick to throw their hands up in the air and just, leave it to God. Yes, absolutely. Let's leave it to God. But, there are, that we can do. And, we should try, we should educate ourselves. We should empower ourselves. If not for us, for the people that come after us.
Our children, us. That's, I think about that too, not in a selfish way, but I do. Because right after, first of all, I started being, I'm paranoid about so many things, but I really started being paranoid about me. Like even the other day, I was like, oh God, something's weird going on in my stomach. Like, but And I am, but I did go to a doctor in Tali, and I've shared with them what's going on, so they're able to put it in my chart, so they can be watching for certain things, which is something else I think is important for people to think about. If you do have someone who has had this disease or any cancer, go let your doctor know, so that they can be watching certain things, because it makes your risk, higher.
Much more higher.
And I can tell you right now that PanCAN has a wonderful, wonderful resource that is a guide to talking about pancreatic cancer with your doctor. So
look at that up.
It's your grandmother, if it was an aunt, for whatever it is, it needs to be brought up. In case that you're talking about getting a man, in to talk about male breast cancer. There's a genetic component for some of these cancers, and some of these genes can be precursors to other cancers like pancreatic cancer, like breast cancer. And so those are great talking points too. Well, my grandma had, breast cancer, but, my dad had pancreatic cancer, and you never would think, like, how do you bring there could be, that is a talking point.
That's definitely a talking point.
That we just want, people to know, like, it's time to talk about it. Let's talk about these things. Let's not put it away. It's important. It's too important.
Yeah.
You have to know, and it's so, I always say knowing the symptom is the first step. Because I wish my sister, what I know about pancreatic cancer now, God, I know that I wish I had known it back when she first got diagnosed. I was, as I learned more and more about the disease, and I beat myself up so much because I'm very inquisitive, and I was like, oh God, why didn't I think about that when she was going back and forth to the doctor? But I really didn't think it was a big deal. And we as men, and especially as Black men, I know Angela knows this. I was diagnosed with colon cancer last year, so I just finished my journey of battling colon cancer. And I try to talk about it so much, but I thought that I was having aha moments when my sister died, about people who didn't know about pancreatic cancer. But even as I talked about my own journey last year with colon cancer, so many men my age had never had a colonoscopy and were just terrified of it. We have to educate ourselves, and like you, Angela, I have strong faith. But my faith is just as strong that God empowers those doctors and people and give them the knowledge to do research and find out information and to make it available for us to find cures and find a way that we don't have to die from these diseases. Yes. So I on my social media, any social media I have, whenever I can talk about, I intentionally talk about my recent battle with cancer, my sister's battle with cancer, because the way that we get people to start really looking after themselves and looking at symptoms and looking at early detection is to take the stigma off the disease. And the way you take the stigma off the disease, you make it common conversation. You make people are oftentimes shocked when I tell them, hey, I just went through colon cancer. This is what I went through.
Because I would have never known.
I don't want it to be. I don't want the shame and all that's surrounding the stigma of these diseases to prevent you from being cured from a curable disease. We have too many, and especially young people, too many people are dying from curable diseases simply because they're either uneducated, they don't know the symptoms, or there's such a stigma behind the diseases. So I think these type of conversations are so important. And I will always make I told Angela when I just moved here, when I first met her, I said, it's very little you're going to get me to say no to when it involves pancreatic cancer. And I feel the same thing about colon cancer and any other disease. Very little you're going to get me to say no to.
I do have, when you say that about the awareness and we have to talk about it like it's just a regular conversation, I do talk a lot about mental health as well. And I'm very proud, I'm very excited that now we're talking about mental health like it's a regular conversation. And that's where we have to get cancer to start talking about it. When I was trying to, I shared with Angela before we came on the show, everybody needs to know this so y'all can make sure y'all talk to Jarvis Johnson to make sure we get this walk over here. I'm trying to get a walk because the walk was really, really far from us. I'm going to go to it either way it goes. But to put it here in the community where I'm in the Acres Homes community. And there's a park, Sylvester Turner Park. We lost Sylvester Turner last year, and then we lost Sheila Jackson Lee, who actually passed the pancreatic cancer as well. I was looking at a documentary the other day. I didn't know Marvin Zindler. Y'all remember Marvin Zindler? Eyewitness News. Okay, it's a Houston thing. So he was on the news for so many years. He did the slime and the ice machine. He was amazing, but he died many, many years ago. I never knew why, but I just happened to be looking at something. It says he died of pancreatic cancer. D'Angelo just passed of pancreatic cancer, the singer. So I'm like, we got to talk about it, especially in this area. This is a predominantly African-American area. So again, cancer is taboo. If you say it, it's going to happen. But I asked him about having it over here because there's so many people here that are involved in the community that it could be big. I think I talked to PanCAN and they're saying I can do it. But of course, there's no money. We know that. I'm like, yeah, but we got some politicians and we got some people trying to get in office. So let's go. So that's
what it boils down to.
Let's go. Let's see what y'all really care about.
Yeah.
I will call people out. I'm known for it. I call people out. Let's get this going. You want to get involved? No, you're right. About having that event for pancreatic cancer.
That's right.
That's right.
In all seriousness, I do want to have another location. And I'm going to do whatever I can to make it happen. If it doesn't happen this year, 2025, 26, which I really plan on it happening, but if not, it's going to definitely happen in 27. Because it has to be talked about. But I'm glad you guys are saying, you said a few things that I didn't know. You mentioned a cure. Did someone say cure? There's no cure, but I know that there's a screening. I was told there was no screening.
So there is no diagnostic testing for pancreatic cancer, similar to a mammogram that you would get for breast cancer. There is nothing like that available for pancreatic cancer. Most patients that are diagnosed are always diagnosed at a late stage. It's usually when they're symptomatic. Because the symptoms, again, they're extraordinarily vague. I mean, we're talking from stuff like, stomach pain to low back pain. I mean, who of us doesn't have low back pain right now? I have back pain right now, but there's also other factors like diabetes. Very prominent in the Hispanic community, very prominent in the Black community. Weight loss with no explanation, jaundice, which is yellowing of the skin and eyes. Those are the symptoms that someone's finally raising their hand and saying something's wrong. And at that point, again, it's usually in its late stages. And so we have to tackle this disease by finding that test. Where is that test? How can we get the research there so that we can find it early, and then we can see progress? And so that's our biggest battle right now, honestly, is finding that diagnostic testing so that we can get people seen earlier and in the earlier stages rather than in the later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's right after he passed. I went to the doctor, of course, to ask, and she said, well, unfortunately, there's not a screening for that just yet. So that was actually really what made me think about PanCAN. It's like, okay, I understand we want a cure, but can we please get a test so we can know to be able to catch it earlier too?
Yes, great. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Angie.
Go right ahead, Craig.
No. It makes all the difference in the world, because I'll tell everyone the only reason I'm on this call with you all today is because I was able to get a colonoscopy. I had a family history of colon cancer. I started getting colonoscopy and it was caught in the colon. But had it not been for that screening for that colonoscopy, and it pains me that we have not yet gotten to the stage where we have that for pancreatic cancer, because it makes a difference.
It does. That's going to definitely make a big difference.
Yes, absolutely. And I know here we've got wonderful medical institutions like you all do in Houston. And at one of ours here, they're doing some really promising research around a blood test. And so looking for those markers early. Obviously, we're not there yet, but they're hopeful. And that, that's the thing, is there are researchers out there that are hungry to do this work. They are ready and they want to do it. But like with most things, research requires funding. And so PanCAN has decided to take that bull by the horns and said, all right, what do we need to do to be advocates? Craig, I believe you were able to go up to Advocacy Day at one point in Washington, D.C. when you were there. Able to do it as well. We at one point, PanCAN was taking a group of volunteers like Craig and I, and we were also marching up to the Hill and talking to our congressmen And so I had the great opportunity to tell my senators, my dad is Armando Morales, and he died way too early from this disease.
Yeah.
How are you going to help us with funding for research?
Yeah.
80% of pancreatic cancer research comes from the government. And so
Yeah.
we need to raise our voices more and more. Again, back to the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? It's our job. That's part of what we do as volunteers, and we can do that locally. You can go to your state congressman's office and say,
Mhm.
hey, this is a priority for me. This is how it hits me. I hope that it's a priority for you too. It's something that any of us can do, and PanCAN can really prepare the folks that want to do that really well for that type of action.
Right.
And it is the one equalizer. The most amazing thing about going through that journey with my sister. I think that it was the CEO of Marriott that passed shortly after that, pancreatic cancer. But I thought to myself, here's Steve Jobs, like you said, Aretha Franklin, all these great people, rich, really powerful people, John Lewis. But it's the one equalizer. It is the one thing that my sister is no different than Steve Jobs when it comes to just disease. It does not.
I know Steve Jobs got past I didn't know that.
Yeah. It does not care, does not discriminate.
At all.
So
it's bipartisan. It is
bipartisan.
There you go. There.
You're blue, you're whatever.
Absolutely. It does not
care.
It does not matter. When my first Purple Scribe, this past year was my first year doing Purple Scribe in Dallas, because I just moved to the area.
Okay.
I've always participated in Washington. And the thing that blows me away whether I'm in Washington, I've been in Washington, Boston, Charlotte before we started doing it one day. The thing that blows me away is that there's this sea of purple that surrounded you. And sometimes you don't have to say a word, but they just understand what you're going to. You don't have to say a word sometimes, but they understand. And I first found that Purple Light, it was out there. My sister, that was the next event that I went to. But it just blew me away because there were moments that I couldn't put in words of what I was feeling, but I didn't have to, because I was surrounded by people who understood the journey. And so that's what I love about this community so much, is because it's like we're one big family that's fighting for one common cause. And you're right, it's not bipartisan. You don't care about anything else other than our mission at hand is to find better outcomes for this disease.
Definitely. So this year, I don't have a calendar. This year, I know it's the last Saturday of the month. You said. So make sure I have it.
I believe it's April 25th this year.
Okay, there we go. I'll be back from my cruise. So what was I going to ask? So the goal of PanCAN is to raise funds. I want to make sure that I have the verbiage correctly. So when I'm passing it on to people talking about joining the walk, or if you can't join the walk, we'll take the donations. Can y'all speak to that?
Yeah, so PanCAN's biggest fundraiser of the year is called PanCAN Purple Stride, the Walk to End Pancreatic Cancer. Again, happens on the last Saturday of April. So if you have family, friends in another area of the United States, you just tell them to, go to pancan.org, and you can go to find your Purple Stride walk and find the nearest one near you. And so the funds from Purple Stride go to a variety of our efforts. One of them is research. PanCAN does research its own funding with grants. And the other one is community outreach, just what Craig and I do. You want me to bring a 7-step, ways to reduce your risk? I got you. We got that. We can do that. We can give you that talk for your lunch and learn at your organization. Or we can come to your church and we can tell you all about, what we can do this November for November Awareness Month. Right. That's another way that some of those funds are used, is so that we can, because PanCAN is a grassroots organization. Everything we do out in the community is done all by volunteers. Yeah. There are very few PanCAN staff employees, and they have to man all of us. So I say it all the time, we're small but mighty. Yes. Some of the most passionate volunteers that you will find anywhere. And so, like I said, I was telling you earlier, anytime somebody will open the door for us, we're ready to walk in. We want to share our resources, and so
that makes me smile.
Yeah. I mean, this is, we're all in this together.
We are.
together.
May I ask? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Let me ask this. As far as grief and the counseling and stuff like that, does PanCAN have anything like that, or do they refer out? What do they do for that? And then also, if you don't mind me being personal, how are you guys dealing with the exception of joining this advocacy with the grief of losing your loved one?
You want to start, Craig?
Okay, I am. I've been doing. It's hard to believe that it's been since 2013 I lost my sister, and since then, my mom was on the journey. I've lost my mom and another sibling since then. But I got to tell you, for me, whether it was my personal journey, my sister's journey, it's always knowing my why, and that was big with with PanCAN is that what is your why? I know my why. So I channel all my grief into my purpose and understanding my why. And I'm all about the commitment that I made with my sister. So, you have your heart moments, but really my heart moments have been suppressed by what you see when talking to you, talking to me, talking Purple Stride. I've actually made that my purpose. So, and also advocacy. I think if I didn't have that, I would probably feel
kind of
lost.
redirecting
Exactly. I would feel lost. I always say that when I think about grief, every person survivor, every person who goes get treatment, every person who goes and notice the symptoms and say, hey, I went to the doctor, that keeps my sister memory and legacy alive. So I keep her alive through my advocacy. So that's how I deal with my grief. That's how I deal with the loss of my sister, is knowing that she continues to live on through this work.
Okay, that helps me. Thank you for that. And Miss Angela?
Yeah, the same. When I first came, I lost my dad in 2014. Started volunteering shortly after that. And I came specifically for that, right? I was looking for a place to grieve. I had just moved to the DFW area. My entire family was back in El Paso and way West Texas.
Wow.
So I was essentially grieving alone with my family. I had a newborn. I mean, the baby was 2 weeks old, and I had to fly down to say goodbye to my dad. And so, and then had to grieve after that. And so I was looking for just a space to have that sense of community and to grieve. And it's funny that over the years, as I volunteered, the grief is still there, that it never goes away. Either you always feel the absence of that person, but it's turned my grief into purpose. And so, and as I've gone through my volunteer journey with PanCAN, I've come to know other volunteers like Craig or like Beverly, who lost her husband and her sister. Other volunteers like Elena, who's our mission chair, who lost her mom and a college sponsor. The survivors in our group. There are survivors. They are out there.
Didn't even think about that.
Getting to know them has been a true pleasure. And what a way for me to honor my dad in that way, because I wasn't able to be with him in the last few months of his life because I was pregnant. I was not allowed to go. I could not complain. I couldn't do any of that. And I was also a little sick during my pregnancy. And so that was my way of just reconnecting with him when I get to sit down and talk to our survivors.
Yeah. Wow.
It is a really, really special thing to be able to do that and just and honor his legacy in that way. We're speaking about, what are the support services that PanCAN provides. PanCAN has a really wonderful survivor caregiver network, again, made up of volunteers that are survivors and their caregivers, available to talk to anybody who is maybe newly diagnosed, maybe it's a caregiver who just doesn't know what to do, maybe need an ear to listen for somebody who is in their shoes. You can call PanCAN Patient Services. It is a free resource for anybody. So you doesn't have to be necessarily the patient. It could be the caregiver. It could even be the doctor if the doctor's looking for resources. But that's PanCAN Patient Services. It's free. It's 877-2 PanCAN. And if you want to be connected to the Survivor Caregiver Network, They would say, absolutely, let me take your name down. They try to match you, usually by region, and also to someone in a similar case as yours.
Okay.
So they try to match those people up so that you have somebody who has been in your shoes or is going through what you're going through, and you're able to support each other. We also have affiliates, local affiliates right here in the various areas. There's an affiliate in Houston, there's an affiliate in DFW, and there's also an affiliate in San Antonio that represents the San Antonio, Austin area. All of those places are great places for support as well. But yes, the PanCAN Patient Services, call them up. It's free. Have them connect you with the Survivor Caregiver Network. It's incredible. The survivors are wonderful and ready and willing to share anything and all of it, like what their experiences were, what you should look out for, all of it. It's really great.
You know, it's crazy, sad, but crazy. When you said the word survivor, that doesn't come to me. When you said it, it actually makes me happy because I forget that there are survivors. Because, of course, when my dad was diagnosed and the people that I know, it was just, there's no cure. And when you said that about the survivors, I was like, wow, that's right. There are some survivors. I would love to have that conversation with some of them just to know how they went through that. But I will say what I also found in my first Purple Stride was a connection, kind of what you mentioned, Craig. It was a connection without knowing any of these people. We didn't know none of them people. It was me and my sister, my daughter, and my sister's boyfriend. And it was like family when we just walked out there. You know, the people saying, come on over here, go that way, the signs. Then there was dancing. That's my thing. There was dancing going, like, it was, everybody was just friendly, welcoming. You know, it wasn't doom and gloom, but you knew people had this grief. They had the same thing that you had, this hole in your heart. You saw the signs. I had my shirt. I had my sister made shirt. So ours says Ron's Girl. My dad's name was Ron. So we call our team Ron's Girl. And so it was amazing. But then also I lost my dad. It was like, I guess 4 months before. I don't know, some months before. But the people that had just lost their dad a month or two before it was cool when they said that you could reach out and hug. Like it felt like family. It felt just good to have that. And like you said, Craig, to know that you're out there and people understand. Because the sad part to me is that everybody doesn't understand, and you have to be okay because you don't know until you know. You know what I mean? And so I'm having to learn that everybody, I went to our congressman who passed of pancreatic cancer, her daughter. And I'm like all excited, like we can do this, but she's not there yet. And I had to understand. That's the hard part for me, being the person I am. I want to get it going, that I have to back off and say, hey, they have to do that their own time. That's probably my biggest struggle, because it's like, how can you not want to do this? Like, and that's a struggle for me. But anyway, the Purple Stride was, I think that's what really got me going once I went to it. And it was like, this is crazy, because I saw the advocacy day. I saw that somewhere. So I look at it every so often. I get the emails. But now that I know what that is, I really understand what that is, I'll definitely keep paying attention to that.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about Purple Stride is yes, we are all there. Most of us have walked the same journey, and so maybe they're grieving, like you mentioned. But at the end of the day, we're celebrating each other. We're celebrating the progress that
that's what it was.
We're celebrating the survivors that are there. We're celebrating the caregivers. It's a celebration.
That's exactly what I would call it.
So much of the disease is so hard. And we get out there, we're trying to celebrate each other, and that's what Purple Stride is all about.
And that may be how we have to twist it a little bit. When I'm talking to be about coming to be a part of, even my stepmom, my dad's wife, she just wasn't ready. She donated, but she wasn't ready to come to the walk. But I may have to twist that around a little bit to say that, hey, we're doing this in honor of, but also it's a celebration of him. And okay, I'm gonna find a way to use that.
And my sister, and I always remind this, and this is what I truly believe for myself, because I've gone through phases where initially everybody was on, but first nobody was ready, then everybody was ready, nobody was like that. But I always said that my sister's life was so much bigger than 4 months of a disease.
Right.
Her life was so much larger than that. And my commitment was number one I tell you what I committed to a sister, but it was also about my commitment to myself. And so when I made it my personal commitment, that made me get into a mindset. If nobody else walks, if nobody else shows up, I'm okay being the only person out there, because I truly do believe one person can make a difference. I just had a friend who recently was diagnosed and did the Whipple surgery. He was diagnosed 3 years ago. He's had the Whipple surgery, and he's still surviving. He's cancer free. And he talks about when I was the symptoms were not major symptoms. I talked about. He said, I saw you on Facebook always talking about your sister pancreatic cancer. He said, so when I saw this, it made me get curious and ask my doctor, could this be the problem? And come to find out, it was the problem. So that was, for me, that is confirmation that if nobody else walks, if nobody else shows up, me showing up alone is enough for me. It's enough.
And I totally believe in that, Craig, because lupus. I don't have lupus. No one in my family had lupus, but I knew people. And they first started having it here in Houston many, many years ago. And now mind you, I got everybody in the world to do the breast cancer walk, because that's the thing that, everybody wants to be a part. It's when something's starting new, a lot of people are into it. They want to wait till it gets, I don't know what the word for it, but I did that walk by myself. I had no team. I was the team of me. And I'll never, again, I didn't have it, but I knew people that did. And I was like, oh, this is something that we need to do. And it was very small. And I'm not saying I had anything to do with it, but it has grown so much. I'm not really a part of it anymore, but I've watched it grow. I still see it. It's grown so much. But the point is, it only takes one person, plant one seed to get things really going and pumped up. So
absolutely.
And that's something that we always used to tell each other as volunteers, because sometimes you feel like you've knocked on so many doors and so many doors get shut. And that's the nature of I think volunteering in general. And times you've gotten a phone call of, would you like to support, and so it's like I don't want to hear from anybody else, and we understand that. But if we get one person to open up their ears, to ask an extra question in the doctor, whatever that looks like,
that's right.
Feel like we've accomplished what we're here to do.
That's right.
And that's all we want. That's all we want.
That's all we. There's a song. This is an old gospel song, and it goes, "I'll go if I have to go by myself." And every time I get ready to do the walk, every time I start pulling groups together, I tell myself that. I tell myself, if I'm the only person that shows up, if I'm a team of one, it's okay. It's okay because it only takes one person to be seen to change a person's life. And I truly do believe in that in everything that I do. So that's my motive. That's my why.
That's your why, yeah. And that's so true. I have my co-host on my other show. Matter of fact, he wrote a curriculum about it. But it's, what is your why? What is your why? Why are you doing this? And that actually puts your motivation into whatever it is that you're aiming for. So, well, thank you guys so much. This was not only just something I wanted for informative, but it's actually therapeutic.
It is
great.
Just to be able to talk to some people that know what you're going through and what you're dealing with. Yeah. That is, so y'all gave me my therapy. What I owe you.
Right. Come do the walk.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yes, we'll be at the walk. I'm gonna try my best still to get it over here, but if nobody else, I'm gonna be walking. I might be over here next home with my own little purple sign and walking billboard, but it's okay. But no, thank you guys so much for taking the time, and I don't want this to be the only time. Please, that you come back. I'll reach out to you again. If you need me, let me know if you hear something that you think that's happening in Houston. I will reach out to the people here in Houston. I need to.
Trina, don't tell me that, because Craig said the same thing, and I'm knocking on his door every other
right? It's a phone call. It's a phone call. Keep me busy.
I love it, Angelique. I love it.
Keep me back. Look, you're gonna look up. I'm gonna be down there in DFW with y'all. Y'all look up.
Oh,
I told Angelique that I swing out dance.
Please do. Look me up on Facebook. I'll send you my. Yeah, I'd love to get together.
I told you I've been looking for that ride to take by myself. I might just.
There you go.
It's pretty down there right now. But guys, thank y'all again so much. If y'all need me for anything, or if you hear of anything that you think I need to pay attention to, please reach out to me. Thank you so much for this. And y'all have a good evening. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you guys so much.